Hey everybody, welcome back to the Contrarians. We have another Dark Horse album edition for you today. This is going to be an interesting topic. We're talking about 2011's Lou Reed and Metallica combination called Lulu. They collaborated and created an album together in 2011. I'm going to go over just a little bit of research, but basically, this album came out, was a collaboration between rock singer songwriter Lou Reed and heavy metal band Metallica. It was released as a double album on October 31st, 2011 by Warner Brothers. The album is the final full-length studio recording project that Reed was involved in before his death in October 2013. So according to some of my research, this is a pretty polarizing album. If you look at some of the reviews, you see stuff like, for example, the Montreal Gazette gave it 5 stars, but the Guardian gave it 2 stars. Drowned in Sound gave it 10 out of 10, but Pitchfork gave it 1 out of 10. According to some rankings lists, Lou Reed's album sometimes doesn't even rank. Rolling Classic Rock History had a top 10 of Lou Reed albums. This came in at number 10. Ranker ranked all of the Lou Reed albums, including this one, and this is fan voted, and it came in at number 21. The only thing that came in below it was Hudson River Wind Meditations. Far Out Magazine ranked the Lou Reed albums, and it came in at number 18. And they said the final album Reed ever made wasn't a reflection of his own career, but proof that even at the end of his life, Reed was all about experimenting. On Lulu, the album he shared with metal legends Metallica, Reed adds a permanent full stop to the sentence. On the album, Reed takes on vocal duties, but instead of singing, delivers his lines with a flourishing tone of spoken word genius. It's a combination that could very easily work, but for some reason doesn't. Though the band offer up a selection of industrialized buzzsaws to back them up, the album has never really set the hearts alight of either set of fans and genuinely goes on for far too long. So that was just a little bit of research. I have Simos here. I'm going to throw it over to Simos. Let us know what you think about the album and give us a rating out of 10.
Okay, good. So I can tell you, I mean, that was quite tough one. So first, I mean, let me tell you a bit my story with my history, with Metallica. I mean, when I started listening to heavy metal and hard rock music, Metallica was my first band. So the first album I've ever bought was Garage NC. That was the new album at the time. And then I went to the record store. I bought Master of Puppets. I saw this crazy cover, with a graveyard and with the puppet master and all this stuff. So I bought this album. Then I can say that my life changed. It was I was really shocked about the sound. I really loved it. And I'm a huge fan of the first 4 albums of Metallica. And from Kill 'Em All, to Injustice for All, I really, love. I consider, Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets absolute masterpieces. Black Album, okay, it's a bit overplayed, but still, I can understand its importance and why it changed somehow. The heavy sound, and why it's considered that important. And then Load Reload, I used to hate them. Right now, I made my peace with them. I'm a Southern rock fan, so there are bits and bytes that I quite dig. And then I can tell you, I lost my interest, for the band. Okay, Sentenger, I can. It gives me headaches every time I listen to it. And the last 2 albums, for Lulu, will come back in a moment. And the last 2 albums, they're not bad, but I find them to be a bit forced. Okay, like the band is somehow obliged and forced to do heavy metal, to play thrash metal, and I don't know. So going back to Lulu, before listening for the show, I considered it to be the worst album from a band that I like. Okay, so I understand that's a Lou Reed album, and I like Lou Reed. I have nothing against him. His 70s stuff I kind of dig, but still, I consider it to be a worst album from a band involving a band that I like. So I re-listened to it 10 years after, and I said to myself, okay, probably I changed. I'm a bit more mature, probably I'm open to more stuff. But no, I mean, I really didn't like it. what I had forgotten is how long it is. I mean, it's super long. I remember the overall concept of the album, that Lou Reed speaking, and trying to sing, and Metallica playing some riffs, repeating some riffs, but I had forgotten how long it is. So overall, if I can summarize, I think I find, unfortunately, to be a bunch of quite depressing lyrics, somewhere, cringy or silly lyrics. And Lou, at the time, he was already 70 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So his voice, wasn't, at its best. So the riffs, as I told, are quite generic, repetitive. Yeah, I don't find many, I don't find many positive points from this collaboration. And again, I think that for both of them, it was a quite interesting collaboration. I find that it was quite bold. They're very different, so it's interesting. I really dig this kind of collaborations. When two different music worlds try to do something together. But I found this to be a bit sloppy. I think, it's missing something, it's missing the inspiration. It's like, it was written on an autopilot. Okay, Metallica know how to do riffs. Lou Reed, now knows how to, to sing, or, speak and sing, or, this funny thing that he's doing. So it seems that, they put together this album. So from the songs, I mean, probably the only song that I kind of dig is the first one, the Brandenburg Gate. It's not something great, but at least, it's listenable. I mean, it's not giving me a headache, you see. Then you have The View. Yeah, I mean, you remember, I'm pretty sure everyone here remembers the internet memes with the I am the table, lyric. Not good. I mean, a very generic riff. Lou is talking, and, James, yeah, I'm not crazy about James' performance here. Pumping Blood has a couple of interesting ideas. I mean, there are some parts of the song that are quite good, but this cannot justify 7+ minutes. I mean, again, once more, I think it's the songs are very bloated, very very long. I mean, without any reason, with a lot of repetition. And yeah, then you have what, Mr. Dread. Yeah, same pattern. At this point, I start having a headache. I don't know how I will go over the rest of the album. Iced Honey. It was I was positively surprised now, this time, because I had forgotten. It's quite good, and I really like the last part. Where James and Lou sing together. Lou is singing, and James is screaming something on the background. And I think that if the album had more songs like that, it would have been a successful experiment. Okay, not a masterpiece, but at least something that it's worth re-listening, and something that makes sense from an artistic point of view. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you have the side B of the last. You have Cheat on Me before, on the last song of side A. This was really horrible. I mean, it's an 12 minutes, almost 12 minutes song, and you have Lou repeating, "Why do you cheat on me?" I mean, yeah, it's quite tough. So the side B, more or less, same. My sentiment, my feeling is similar. Frustration is, yes, probably the worst song of the album. I mean, I find it quite terrible, to be honest, with really bad lyrics. A Little Dog, yeah, nothing special. Dragon, yeah, it's probably the only song from side B that I dig somehow. But again, it's 11 minutes long, so it's too long. And finally, Junior Dad. I mean, okay, 19 minutes of this. Enough said. I find it too bloated, And having said that, I'm a progressive rock fan, so I mean, I like long, lengthy songs. I mean, I have no problem with that. But if it's done, properly, if it's done, in the, I don't know, in the King Crimson way, or if it's done, even in Iron Maiden, I really dig the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. That is what, 12 minutes. But in Lulu, that doesn't work, So I have to give a score from 0 to 10. Yeah, I'll try to be, quite. I don't want to be very negative here, so I'll give a 2 out of 10 because again, there are two songs that kind of dig, and I found, that this collaboration it was quite interesting, as a concept. So 2 out of 10, and yeah, that's the best I can do.
Wow. Do you think you would give it a higher rating if it was a single album instead of a double album?
It really depends, on the song selection. I mean, if you have, yeah, I mean, if they could, chew out a bit of the fat, remove, a bit of the fat, yeah, I would give it a higher rating. But again, not, more than a 5 out of 10. I mean, I don't think this collaboration, worked at all. And I don't blame that much Metallica. I think it was Lou, that he wasn't in his top form. I mean, 2 years after he passed away, if I'm not mistaken, he was already 70 years old. So I mean, it's quite normal. But yeah.
Are you a fan of like other Lou Reed albums?
Not that much. I like, the Velvet Underground, some of the Velvet Underground stuff. There are some songs of Lou Reed that, I kind of dig. So going back again to this style of, talking and, singing together. When he was young, that was quite good, quite cool. So for example, I really like the song, The Dirty Boulevard. I think, there it's a really cool song. You have a quite young guy telling a story, about this Dirty Boulevard. But this doesn't work, when you're 70 years old, I think. At least, if you try to do it like Lou and Metallica, the Lou and Metallica way.
All right, Joe, what do you think about Metallica and Lou Reed's collaboration?
I went with the Golden Gate Bridge in the background since Metallica. Anyway, I know my catchphrase is when great bands make bad albums, but this doesn't even fit into that category. This is like so out there. And Peter Kerr, I don't know what to say to you because I've been tortured the last few days having to listen to this, revisit this. The thing that comes to mind first with Lulu is there's a guy named Ron Quintana, and he literally you could credit him with naming the band Metallica, because when the band first started, he had a fanzine, and he wound up calling it Metal Mania, and he was friends with Lars. So they had this idea, and Lars said, "Why don't you we'll take the name Metallica, you call your fanzine Metal Mania." So this is when Metallica was first starting. I don't even know if Dave Mustaine was in the band yet. So fast forward at their 30th anniversary, I think it was their 30th anniversary, but they had that string of shows. It's all on YouTube. It was awesome. They had a string of shows at the Fillmore in San Francisco for like a week, and they had guests, all these guests come on, and it was awesome, including Dave Mustaine. And Ron Quintana made the comment, no one wants to hear Metallica make an album with Lou Reed. So that's the first thing that pops to my mind. And the second thing that pops to my mind after listening to this is the word cacophony, because it's just like noise. It's just like, I listen to it and it's like recycled Metallica riffs with Lou Reed just talking over it, and and James Hetfield going downtown girl, and I don't know. It's painful. It's not even enjoyable. It's just I don't even know what they say what they were trying to accomplish, and I guess they interacted with each other. The thing that bothered me the most about this is, I've followed Metallica since the Metal Up Your Ass demo. I saw them at the Metro in Chicago open up for Raven, and you can see the video out there when we ripped the guitar off of Kirk's back. He held it over the crowd. So, and then I followed this band. Is Metallica my favorite band? Far from it. They're hit or miss with me. They're kind of in the middle for me, but I've been there since the beginning. And it just seemed like there were would Lou Reed record an album with any, a metal band on, why wouldn't he do an album with Megadeth, or why wouldn't he do an album with Slayer? It just, it seems like it's like it was a trend. It was like trendy, you know, because Metallica got huge. Then all of a sudden, all these other people, from whether it be Elton John to Lou Reed to and you know, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they became respectable, and everybody likes them, and it's because they became huge. Am I making sense? Yeah. So that's what bothered me about this album, because I just felt like Lou Reed was doing, oh yeah, you know, Metallica's cool, and I don't think Metallica's anything more special than some of the other bands I named, specifically Megadeth, Slayer, but they just got huge. They hit that, you know, with the Black Album, obviously. They hit that. They I don't know if they got lucky or what, but they became Led Zeppelin, you know, bigger than Led Zeppelin if you want. And because of that, you know, Lou Reed's like, oh, you know, we're going to do this collaboration. And you have Lars, and I feel like Lars was behind this because he's always avant-garde. He's always been that way. And it just doesn't work for me. I mean, I don't know if you guys went any track by track. I don't even know if it's worth doing, but I mean, there's a couple riffs in here. The album cover alone is just really depressing. And it starts out with that acoustic on Brandenburg Gate. And I just don't want to hear Lou Reed talking about disgusting things right off the bat. And I don't like seeing the word Lulu. Like, I think it's worse than the Load cover, because you really don't know what the Load cover is, you know, album cover. This is with the blood and all that. It's gross to look at. It's gross to listen to. It just doesn't work. And I just feel like it was, okay, it's a trendy thing to do here. The Lou Reed and Metallica. You know, there's some okay, decent riffs, but if you compare it, it seems like the riffs that Metallica had that they didn't use, or they recycled some stuff that they had in their catalog, and they had Lou Reed do spoken word to it. You know, Iced Honey, I guess. I can't even pick there's no song that really resonates with me, because you'll listen to like The View or Iced Honey, and it's like, okay. And then now, you know, like 30 seconds into a minute in, it's like, no, this just doesn't work. And I've never been a big Lou Reed fan at all. I never got a Velvet Underground. I never got his solo work. I never got Berlin. I know that metal, whatever, it's all just noise. I don't get any of that. And I've heard interviews about it. There's one guy out there. He used to be I forgot his name. He was a bodyguard and a tour manager for a bunch of bands. He's been on a couple Kiss podcasts, and man, I'm skipping on his name, but you hear him talk about the different bands he works with and what a struggle it was to deal with Lou Reed and how volatile his personality is, and his heroin addiction and everything. So not a big fan of any of that. Never got it. You know, Walking the Wild Side was his big hit. Even when that was out when I was a kid, I was like, you know, but yeah, it's not, when you listen to something, even when it just, I know there's albums that I dislike. We talked about it, but you know, it's enjoyable. Like when we did Turbo, right? You know, that's an album that I can't get into and never will. And it's by one of my favorite bands. But at least it was fun. You laugh. It was enjoyable. This is just like it's gross. It's just it's noise, and it doesn't work at all. This is yeah. It's all I got to say about it. It's just a terrible listen.
What would you rank it out of 10?
You know, I would have to agree. I would give it a 2 as well, just because of some of the riffs are there. Yeah, I'd give it a 2. I don't know, 1, 2.
Were you a fan at all of Velvet Underground?
Pardon me?
Were you a fan of Velvet Underground at all?
No, I never got any of that. I don't get that. I never got into Velvet Underground. The Andy Warhol thing, all that era, just no. It's just I want nothing to do with it.
If I asked Simos the same thing, if you could make this a single album instead of a double album, do you think it would increase your score a bit if you can pick and choose what tracks made it?
No. You would have to take some of the decent riffs, make them into good songs, and get rid of Lou Reed, making them a yeah. That's
cool. All right. Is there any place? Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. It's just when it came out, I didn't get it, and I guess gross is a great term for me to describe this album. I don't understand art, or they call it art. You put it out just to turn people off. I feel like that's what this is, and I don't understand the mentality behind that.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any place we can find you, Joe?
Here on the Contrarians. I've done Peter Kerr's Rock Daydream Nation recently, and that's my most recent appearances.
Cool. Is there anything else? Anything you wanted to say to each other?
Just a point. I mean, I totally agree with you that even Turbo. I mean, it's not my favorite album, but still, you can listen to it, and it's okay. I mean, okay, it's not my favorite. It's far from being my favorite, Judas Priest album, but still, Lulu, it's so hard to listen. I mean, I was suffering, when I went through it. I mean, then I had headache at some points, honestly. So it's a really I agree with the points of Joe.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The headache, it's. I don't know if there's an album out there that is really, especially about a band that I follow, that is just so detestable. Like it's just not. It's the opposite of enjoyable. You listen to. Yeah, I can't even think of it. Like I'm thinking of like Def Leppard. When they went total change in their direction. There's still like you listen to parts of their albums and there's still you don't feel like taking a shower. Like this is just and it just doesn't work at all.
I did exactly the same exercise, with Iron Maiden, and I picked my worst Iron Maiden, my least favorite Iron Maiden album, Virtual 11, and still, there are two very good songs, Glanzman and Future Ill that I dig. Lulu and Saint Anger as well. I think that it falls in the same category. I mean, I find Lulu worst, but Saint Anger as well. I don't know what they were thinking. When they put these two albums. I mean, honestly.
Oh, Saint Anger. Yeah, no, I agree. Because that snare in Saint Anger is just so brutal, and the songs it's new metal and everything. But even with that, I can get through Saint Anger a lot more than I can get through this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, John, tell us what you think about Lulu and what you rank it out of 10, and if you're yay or nay on the album.
Okay, thank you all for having me here. I am a big Lou Reed fan who also likes Metallica. I got into Lou Reed and Metallica during the 80s, and in my youth, I was more of a Metallica fan. But then when I heard Lou Reed's album, New York, and it was the first one I owned, I became a very big Lou Reed fan. I own nearly all of his studio albums and a few of his live albums as well. When I look at this album, Lulu, I consider this a Lou Reed album, not a Metallica album. I don't understand why it's ranked in with the Metallica albums. This is a Lou Reed with Metallica album. Having said that, as a big Lou Reed fan, this is one of my least favorite Lou Reed albums, but I do like a lot of things on this album. Most of the first disc I actually like. I really like Brandenburg Gate. I really like The View. Now, one thing I do have to say about this album, it's jarring at first. It may be very off-putting at first, but the more you listen to it, and I was listening to it a lot during my preparation for this show, there were songs on here that I had always liked before, but now there's some songs on here that have really grown on me. Brandenburg Gate and The View, I think they're both very good. Pumpin' Blood's very good too. When it really gets exciting at one point when when the guitars really kick in, when Lou goes, "Come on, James," and then they start getting more intense. I do think on some songs on this album, I think Lars Ulrich is too busy. There's some parts where are very dramatic, and I think you got to slow it down instead of throw in lots of quick fills when it's slow. I think that takes away a little bit. I mean, on most of the album, he plays very well, but on some of the slower songs are more dramatic. I think he overplays. Mr. Dread, I really like a lot. Iced Honey's probably my second favorite song on the album, and most people like Iced Honey. That's a pretty good song. A lot of people would probably say that would be the song that worked best on this album. Cheat on Me, the last song on disc 1, doesn't really do anything for me. I'm not really a fan of that one. Now, disc 2, that's harder disc to get through. Frustration does have a cool riff, and it works pretty well. I mean, I don't think it's a great song, but it's good, and I think the collaboration works well here. The less you say about Little Dog, the better. Little Dog, I think, does nothing for me. To me, it's just that's a skip. I mean, not much in it for me. And Dragon, that doesn't really work well for me either until the guitars start to kick in. I think Junior Dad's wonderful. It's 19 minutes, but one thing Lou Reed did really well is with these long songs that he has composed over the years. They take you in. They take you to another place. Even when you go back to the Velvet Underground, you listen to Sister Ray. Sister Ray doesn't feel like 19 minutes. When you listen to Like a Possum on Ecstasy, that doesn't feel like 18 or 19 minutes. And he's written a lot of other songs like that where the longer ones really take you in. He's had a wonderful solo career. He's not just a lot of people say, oh, Velvet Underground, but no, he has had a wonderful solo career, very underrated. And most of his albums are very good, and some of them are great. He does performance art very well, and Junior Dad is a great example of performance art. If you're a Lou Reed fan, Berlin's performance art, wonderful album, my favorite. Magic and Loss is a performance art. It's a song about mortality. It's an album about mortality. He wrote it after 2 of his friends died. That's a wonderful album that really grows on you. Junior Dad is a song that grows on you. It's just a great vibe. It feels very cerebral. The ending's like 4.5 minutes, just the same. It's just the same noise the whole time, but it takes you into another place. You just forget about what is on your mind when you listen to Junior Dad. Now, as a Lou Reed album, it is one of my least favorite. But it has grown on me a lot in the preparation for this album. A lot of his albums I'd give 9s and 10s. Excuse me. I would give this a 6.
Wow. Our highest rated so far. Awesome. Thanks, John. Take it away, Peter. What do you think about Lulu? What do you rank it out of 10? And we know we can find you at Rock Daydream Nation, but you can give a plug at the end too if you like.
No worries. Thanks. Lou Reed, I love Lou Reed. He's one of the legends. And I know, John, you were saying he's underrated. I think he's rated pretty highly critically, but commercially wise, I don't think he's ever hit the heights. He's been a bit of a cult hero. Other than Walk on the Wild Side and some of his early 70s albums, I don't think he's ever been that superstar status, but everyone knows him. And Lou Reed is a very prickly character. Lou Reed is a fierce warrior, and Lou Reed does whatever the fuck he wants to do. And I think that for him to invite Metallica into this project means he respects them, and that's a kudos. And I think Metallica were incredibly brave to take on this project because it's so far out their wheelhouse. I mean, could you imagine bands like Anthrax, Slayer, or Creator, or any of the big 4, or let alone the big 10 of thrash doing some project like this? Hell no. A lot of people, I followed this on Blabbermouth and a lot of those social media posts, and they were following this project. And I have never come across a project that got slammed so much in social media. Lou Reed was getting death threats. It was that serious. And sometimes I think that people rebel if they don't understand. And that happens a lot in life. A lot of the Rolling Stone reviews of bands, great bands that we talk about on this web channel, like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, was slammed because they didn't understand them. And if you don't understand, you slam it, you slag it. So I think a lot of the fans and a lot of the critics may not have understood this album, and that's why they slammed it. Is it an easy listen? Hell no. It's a dense, maybe a little bit obscure. I mean, all the songs are based on a German playwright called Frank Weinkind. I don't know if I pronounce his name right. I've never heard of him. The lyrics are dense. A lot of the songs take longer than the Ground Teton Highway to get run to a conclusion. It's a tough listen. But there is some moments of beauty and there's some moments of sheer power in it. But it's a far from brilliant album. But at the other end of the scale, it's not the dud that everyone's saying. I mean, a lot of people were comparing it to this little beauty, Metal Machine Music. And this is something, Marco, you wouldn't be serenading your wife with this this album, I'm telling you. But it's far from that. So I think that Lou passed away fairly soon after this project. And I think this was like his black star. You know, David Bowie, Black Star, he knew that he was not going to live long. This was his final project. And he chose Metallica to be the engine room of his vision through his lyrics and through his work. And it's very avant-garde, and it falls firmly in the performance type of albums that you were saying earlier, John. So it's nothing unusual for Lou, but it's very unusual for Metallica. And it's very much a Lou Reed album. It's not a Metallica album. So I think it's like Black Star. Not as good, obviously, because Black Star's a masterpiece, and that was kind of accessible, and that had a door that you could get in behind the music. This one is a little bit more dense and impenetrable, and it takes quite a few listens. I've listened to it a few times. I don't get all of it, but there is some sheer beauty, and that Junior Dad song is magnificent. It's a magnificent song. And I've got a little anecdote that James Hetfield and, basically after recording that, he went into the control room and he bawled his eyes out because the lyrics were about, being a dad, being not perfect. And I think he was relating it to his father, and he was just sobbing uncontrollably. And Lou went in and he goes, "I got you, didn't I?" So, out of all the songs, and some of the songs are a real chore to get through, like number 4, I marked out, Mistress Dread. That's a really heavy going. It's like a mantra. It goes on and on and on. But Junior Dad, out of it, if you're going to pick one song that you want to listen to, is just beautiful. It's got the nice violins, it's got the strings, and the lyrics are fantastic, and it's way powerful. So, I think Metallica are brave for doing it. Is it another misstep in their career? Because they've made lots of mistakes, haven't they? Napster, that horrible synth anger, the drums, that documentary. Did we really need to see them in a psychotherapy? Yeah. Maybe not. But I think this is brave. I kind of think it's more of Lars. I reckon it was his instigation. He's the guy who collects art and he's trying to get into the more arty stuff. I think he would have been pushing the guys. I can't imagine Kurt or the rest of the guys going on the wagon. But once they got into the recording session, I think they bought into it. By the way, I heard it was really a difficult recording, and Lou threatened to punch James out a few times. and look, you got to imagine he's going through cancer, probably hasn't got long to live, and you go through all these emotions, and I heard it was a pretty tough recording, and Lars had to take him aside and say, Lou, we're here for you, mate. We just want to do what you want to do. Just calm down. And the way they were recording in a circle. So the way Lou would, be singing, and then you have the guitarist and the bass and the drums, and it'd be a circle. So it was sort of like primal therapy, how they're recording it, quite unusual. So I don't think it's a great album. I don't think it's a crap album. I put it in the middle. I put it as a 5 out of 10. But I think over time, the next generation or two may listen to it more favorably, because I've been looking at YouTube clips and looking at the comments, and a lot of people are coming around to it. A lot of people saying, I hated this album. I was a Metallica fan since the early days, but I've listened to this album and I'm buying into it and I love it. So maybe over time, this album is going to get a lot more legs. And David Bowie rated this as his masterpiece. So David Bowie, that's huge kudos for him to say that. It's his masterpiece. So maybe it just needs a couple of generations to catch up. But I've listened to it a few times. A lot of it's very dense, very hard to get through. But Junior Dad, just go to that. That's a very moving piece of music. And I'd put it up there as one of Metallica's greatest. It's just a very powerful piece of music. So 5 out of 10 for me. There you go.
And we can find you at Rock Daydream Nation.
Yes, Rock Daydream Nation.
On YouTube. Cool. All right. Even with both of your scores, the average score between all four of you is still 3.75. But I want to ask the two of you, you guys both of you rated it a little bit higher than Simos and Joe. But had this album been not been a double album, do you think it would be rated higher?
Yes.
Possibly, yeah. It takes its time. Because my biggest complaint, I don't know about you, Joe, John, even in the CD age, that a lot of bands love to fill up the CD. So in the olden days, when you had vinyl, you'd have a snappy 30-minute album, and it's quality over quantity. And then the CD age came in, and they just wanted to fill it up to 78 minutes. This one has got 2 of those. So I think a little bit of collar control and just put it into the one, it would have been rated a lot higher. But yeah, it's Lou Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna argue with Lou Reed?
Yeah, right. I agree with you here. Yeah, I mean, if you cut off some of the fat here, and when CDs were coming out and being 60 minutes long, when I was younger, I really embraced it. But as time went on, I was like, when you saw everyone trying to get, and Metallica definitely very guilty of it, putting 79 minutes on an album. I think they did that with Load and possibly Reload too. It was just too much. I mean, like those albums, Load and Reload, I mean, I think those were albums you had to cut off the fat. You took 4 songs off each of those, and those albums are better. And you could say that for a lot of bands. I think they just went too long. I mean, yeah, 40, 45 minutes, and you're good. Here, yeah, like if you cut off Little Dog, yeah, maybe Cheat on Me, that would probably take it down to about, maybe it would take it down to about 62, 65 minutes or so. But Junior Dad's 19 minutes, and it's fine at 19 minutes. So,
yeah. Do you agree, Marco? Do you think CDs, sometimes some bands put way too much filler?
Well, it's interesting to go and look at how short some vinyl albums were when you look at the total run length. Like I think Kiss Dressed to Kill, I think it's like 29 minutes or something, right? It's like not even 30. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's like 28
Rainbow
minutes
Rising.
Like
look how many songs on that.
6 tracks, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 2 of them are like 10 minutes, right? But
yeah, but no fat on that. And that's, I think we get too spoilt with the deluxe box age of CDs. That's just too much content. But I think that because Lou was Lou and where he was in his life and the space, I think nobody dared challenge him. It was his project, and he just got to do whatever he wanted to do. And that filled every ounce of music on those 2 discs. That's what he was going to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, very cool.